Hey everybody, Dave Dubeau with another episode of the Property Profits Real Estate Podcast. Today, zooming in, we've got Bill Bymel, who is a very experienced real estate entrepreneur, and we're going to be talking about something really timely and interesting for where we're at in the markets right now. And that's what's going on with interest rates. That's what's going to be coming down the pipeline with foreclosures and defaults on mortgages and all that nasty stuff that can create a lot of opportunities for astute real estate investors. So Bill's going to be talking to us about that, how he rode out the last great recession, made a lot of money for himself and his investors, and what he's looking towards for this new one. So Bill, welcome to the show.
Dave, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Likewise, my friend. All right. So Bill, you've written a book about this whole thing. You're in the, what would we call this? How do you describe the business that you're in when it comes to real estate?
Sure. I'm an investor in the secondary mortgage market. That's the world of seasoned mortgage loans that are sold after the point that they are originated. They're investors, large and small, sovereign wealth funds down to individuals hold mortgages on residential and commercial real estate. I got into a specific area of the mortgage investment field, which was the purchase of non-performing, sub-performing, defaulted mortgage loans, mostly in first lien position. And I got into it at a time when the market was obviously going upside down and millions
so
of mortgages.
Whenabouts did you do that? And is this the same thing? We hear people talking about notes, investing in notes. Is that?
That's right.
That's what it's all about. Okay.
That's right. And most people that invest in notes, there's two types of notes, right? Okay. There's the performing note. And so investors that have a 401k or a self-directed that they just want to clip a coupon for, gaining that interest on a performing note is a very safe investment, especially if you can do so tax-free through a self-directed. So a lot of investors have invested in performing notes, but there's also a huge market for non-performing. And there's a whole bunch of ways that non-performing notes can be of value. You can, as an investor in real estate, it's a good way to get to real estate at a discounted price. And as an investor like myself, who makes money on fixing and flipping or arbitrage plays, it's an opportunity with multiple tools in your toolbox to help people out while making a lot of money for my investors.
We were talking about this a little bit before I pressed record there, Bill, and you were saying that a lot of folks have the impression that this is kind of a vulture type business. It's a predatory type thing. We're taking advantage of these poor homeowners who've fallen into default through no fault of their own. Yeah, right. Maybe.
Right.
But hey,
using their house as an ATM, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. So talk to us a little bit about that and how the vulture side of the business works, and then also how the nice guy side of the business works.
Right. Very interesting. So I got into the business in the summer of 2008 with an opportunity to buy mortgage loans at what some would say are pennies on the dollar. Yeah. This is 3 months before the fall of Lehman Brothers, while the crash was still in process.
Right.
And for me, that was a light bulb moment. I saw the opportunity. It was a unique business. But getting into the buying of non-performing loans at a discount and then becoming a debt collector was not something that I was really excited about.
I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to, and so it had that kind of reputation back in 2008 when the business really started to spawn and snowball. And I got together with my partners and we created a whole new paradigm by which we are able to pass some of the savings that we get back to these borrowers that are in distress. Okay. One of the things that we can do with private equity that banks or regulated private equity institutions can't do is we can make decisions outside the norm. We can act individually based upon each individual borrower's needs. So one of the things that set us apart from the very beginning was when other lenders were collecting collecting payments, we were calling, asking borrowers, how would you like to see this resolved? And it really became a paradigm for helping people, creating win-win strategies to resolve this. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book about it called Win-Win Revolution in 2017, which really dictated the fact that, the first 30 or 40% of the non-performing loans we buy, we will help people modify and stay in their homes. If someone has the opportunity to keep their home and they can afford it, we will do whatever we can to make that happen.
So if you don't mind, Bill, I just want to wrap this for a second. So typically the not so nice guys in the business, the typical
correct
modus operandi for them is
my
they buy these you buy these non-performing notes, and then they get a crew of debt collectors on the phone. And how does that typically look?
No, exactly. And that's one of the things when I speak to my partners about it is we're really taking advantage of the inefficiencies that exist in mortgage loan servicing. Not only are we individually looking at files, but the average investor, large investor, is a fund or a bank or sovereign wealth, and they will buy hundreds of millions of dollars of these mortgages that are in default, and they send it to their debt collector, which is their loan servicer. And then it's the servicer's job to either collect the money or put the borrower into foreclosure and initiate a foreclosure.
And take the property.
Yeah. So it's a pretty straight, it's a much simpler group of options.
And from your experience, what does that kind of look like? Like big picture, what percentage do they actually start collecting on? What percentage do they typically foreclose on? Do you know what?
Yeah, absolutely. An average non-performing loan shop that doesn't follow my strategy would be you'd have about 30% short sale deed in lieu. You'd have maybe 20% that would modify it, and most of those modifications came under government mandated programs.
Okay,
and then the bulk of them they just send to the lawyers, and the lawyers have no motivation to resolve or help anyone. They're charging a fee to do their job. So so it's just a machine that rolls, and there's no individualism to it. I got into this knowing, as we all knew, that in 2008 that the market was blowing up. And I don't know if you had a mortgage back then, Dave, but I tried calling my mortgage servicer to get a couple of questions answered in 2009, and it was a long call.
Well, I'm up here in Canada, so we were a little bit insulated from that.
Oh, that's right.
Way fewer banks, but they were just starting to do all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Then it hit the fan, and they all clenched up their
They got smart. They got smart quicker.
Yeah, they claimed they were super smart, but basically they're super slow, and they just hadn't enough.
Right, just lucky.
Okay, so anyhow, that's how the big guys do it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's another fantastic idea. Hold on to that thought for a sec. We'll be right back. Now, are you a real estate investor who's run out of cash or credit to grow your portfolio? Are you looking to grow your portfolio using other people's money and raising capital? Well, I want to show you how to raise 6 figures or more in 6 weeks or less at my upcoming Investor Attraction Workshop. You can get your ticket and find out all about it at investorattractionworkshop.com. We're going to spend a full day taking a deep dive into this roadmap that I've used to raise millions for my deals, and I've helped other people just like you cumulatively raise hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for their deals as well. So again, you can check that out at investorattractionworkshop.com. And as a loyal listener to the podcast, you'll get 50% off your ticket when you use the discount code podcast. That's right, discount code podcast at investorattractionworkshop.com. See you at the next workshop. What's Bill's way? What's the win-win way? And what give me maybe a concrete example of how you might actually work with somebody to help them turn stuff around.
Absolutely. And some of these, you read about these stories in my book, and every month I have a new story. And this is what makes my job so exciting. I mean, real estate's a great game. It's a new world every day. And then being in the position that I'm at, dealing with people that are in a distressed situation and being able to provide a lifeline to that is one of the most rewarding ways to live a life and make a lot of money. And so, for example, when I early on, there was so many loan servicers were so overwhelmed that borrowers just couldn't get they would send in their modification documents, a page would go missing, the application wouldn't get processed, and then all of a sudden a foreclosure would start. I mean, millions and millions of Americans were actually forced into foreclosure. I know servicers like Litton and others that got shut down because their servicing operation, their debt collectors were telling people that they would only consider them for modification if they stopped making payments, forcing people into default. So, what we do is we take a savings. So on average, let's say today's market for non-performing, I could probably buy at an average of about 60 cents on the dollar.
So let's look at round numbers. Let's say it's $100,000 note mortgage.
Yep.
You could probably buy that for $60,000.
Yeah, the 100,000s I'll probably buy even for 55 just because it's a smaller number. But let's just say for round numbers, you buy $100,000 mortgage for 60,000. Okay. And that $100,000 mortgage is against maybe there's a little equity still in the property, $120,000. Today's day and age, a lot of people still have a little bit of equity, but they owe $100,000, and part of that $100,000 is $10,000 in arrears. Your average bank will call that borrower up when the loan boards and say, "You owe us $10,000. When are we getting the check?" Well, if somebody can't make one payment, they're not going to make 10, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we come to that person and we say, forget what happened in the past, whether it was a bad conversation with your service or missing paperwork. Let's look at your current financial situation. And as long as they have a job and an income to support it, we will put people into a modification. We can streamline a modification where we don't have to ask them for a down payment. In many cases, we're changing.
So you're waiving the penalty the bank would have charged, the 10 grand. Or whatever.
Correct. Yeah, and you might roll a portion of it into a new loan and waive a portion of it. So you give a little bit of savings back to the borrower. Remember, I'm getting a big discount on the debt, so I'm getting the debt for 60 cents on the dollar. Imagine I buy this at 60 cents. It's 100,000 of debt. Let's say I go to them and I say, "Listen, you make 6 on-time payments. I'm going to modify you to 96,000, which is going to waive a couple $1,000s of past due and stuff that, over the years, and put you into a brand new, we'll even give you a whole new 30-year term." Now I've right-sized that loan for myself. So I now have what was a non-performing loan at 100,000 that I bought for 60. I now have a performing loan at 96,000. Meanwhile, I've taken in 6 months of payment, so a couple $1,000s that I've gotten in income. And that loan, as a performing loan, can now be packaged and resold to other investors, whether it's the 401k investor or a securitization investor on Wall Street. And the reperforming rate on mortgages is north of 90%, and in some cases close to par, depending on the interest rate.
Just for simplicity's sake, because I'm a simple kind of guy.
Yeah.
So we've got that original $100,000 mortgage loan that you have purchased for 60.
Yep.
You've gotten 6 months worth of payments. I don't know what that would look like, give or take. Would that be
four or five? Yeah, $4 or $5 grand, let's say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you've collected that.
Yep.
Now you've knocked the mortgage amount for the borrower down to, what did you say?
96. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, good. All right. 96. Yep. And now they've been performing for 6 months. It's a performing note. You can turn around and sell that to a more conservative investor.
Correct.
For how much?
90 cents, let's say. I give the investor a discount. Maybe it's a 6 coupon note and I give it to him for 90 cents on the dollar. So he's getting a 7.25% yield on a performing loan, first lien with collateral backing. He's completely in the money equity wise. So now I'm exiting at 87. So there's a 27,000, there's about a 40% worth of upside. Now I probably have expenses. I've got boarding fees. I've got the due diligence and legal costs. So I've got a couple $1,000s in expenses there, but you can see how the return can be very nice. I mean, actually, when I look at the history of my last 10 years and having done this to the tune of close to $1 billion, of invested dollars in the space, the best returns are keeping people in their home, buying something, getting a payment going, and then reperforming it. It's the ultimate win-win. And our IRRs are constantly, in 20s, 30s, 40s all day long.
So is this something that the average mom and pop real estate investor can get into, or is this only something that the big guys, the big banks, the funds can really be doing?
Great question. This was a good old boys network prior to the last downturn in 2008. And in many ways, it still is when dealing with a couple of these Wall Street guys. I was fortunate enough to be introduced to those people. And I'm like, I somehow have managed to stick around for over a decade and become part of the old boys club. But what I've seen happen in these 14 years since then is I've seen an entire tertiary market of note buyers and investors around the country that have gotten into buying individual notes, whether performing or non-performing. There are a number of educators, legitimate educators out there. There's a couple con artists as well, but there's a number of legitimate educators and that cater to the average real estate investor that wants to get into note buying. So it very much is a growing market. There's more people trading notes on what I call the tertiary market. They don't like to think they're part of the secondary market. It's true, they are, but it's a level of traders of individual investors. So there's absolutely opportunity for the average person to get involved. I know several people that own 1, 2, or 10 notes.
Very cool. Bill, we could talk about this for a long time. However, we don't have a long time. So if people want to find out more about you, I know you've got a book, I know you've got a podcast. What should people be doing?
Yeah, no, the best thing to do is just find me at my personal website, billbymel.com. That's BILLBYMEL.com. And that'll take you in all directions, whether it's my book, my webinar, my podcast, or one of the companies that I manage. I'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. We'll make sure we've got those in the show notes. Bill, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you on the next episode. Well, hey there. Thanks for tuning into the Property Profits podcast. If you like this episode, that's great. Please go ahead and subscribe on iTunes. Give us a good review. That'd be awesome. I appreciate that. And if you're looking to attract investors and raise capital for your deals, then I'm going to invite you to get a complimentary copy of my newest book, right back there. There it is. The Money Partner Formula. You can get a PDF version at investorattractionbook.com. Again, investorattractionbook.com. Take care.